Crazy Joe. Yeah, I'm Crazy Joe. I be running through the snow. Got no pants, got no shirt, got no money.
Good morning. Welcome back to Crazy Joe's Concession Stand. I'm Crazy Joe. And yesterday we were talking about Fantastic Four and how it is a bit of a box office disappointment, and people have been calling it the end of superhero films. Thunderbolts, Captain America, and the Fantastic Four have all failed to perform at the box office, and Superman has done exceedingly well in the domestic box office, but not so well overseas, which is not surprising because Superman has never been a strong performer overseas, and he is very much perceived as an American character, an American icon, and America ain't too popular in the world right now. So we're seeing a repudiation of that. I mean, it's never done great in Europe or China or Asia, but we're seeing it do significantly worse right now because of America's reputation in the world. But it's doing great in America. Captain America, Brave New World, Thunderbolts, and Fantastic Four, not as much. Not nearly what Superman's doing. This has led some people to say it's the death of the MCU. The death of the MCU, the death of superhero cinema, superhero fatigue. We hear that all the time, superhero fatigue. And I'm here to tell you that's not what's happening. This is a multi-tiered problem. And the problem is streaming and PVOD. Now, to those who don't know what PVOD is, that is premium video on demand. That is when a movie is available to buy or rent on Apple or Amazon or Google Play or Fandango at home or whatever service you use to rent or watch streaming movies. But it's not available on a subscription service yet, like Netflix, Disney Plus. So you can stream it at home, but you got to pay for it. That's PVOD, Premium Video on Demand. And PVOD has been around for years, but since the pandemic, it has been almost like a death blow to movie theaters. And I'll explain what the problem is. Okay. First of all, before the pandemic, there was when the pandemic hit, there was a falsehood going around. A lot of people were saying, well, movie theaters were dying even before the pandemic. Even before the pandemic, movie theaters were struggling. I am here to tell you, if you ever heard anyone say that, they were wrong. They were wrong. Anyone who tells you that movie theaters were struggling before the pandemic was flat out wrong. There were more billion-dollar grossing movies in 2019 than ever before. 2019, movie theaters saw record profits. They came crashing down in 2020. The pandemic was the silver bullet. And obviously, the theaters had to shut down. Obviously, people couldn't go to the theaters. But what would have saved theaters was how the studios reacted as soon as theaters could open again. Because the second those theaters were open for business again, that was the time to act. And the studios made horrible decisions. You had studios like Warner Brothers that was putting movies out in 2021 day and date in theaters and on HBO Max. So you could go to HBO Max or the theater. You had a choice. Death blow. Because even people who didn't have HBO Max could easily watch these movies at home, because as soon as it landed on HBO Max, there's a pristine 4K quality that somebody could rip to their computer and torrent. So people were able to pirate these movies very easily. You didn't even need to have HBO Max. You can get these movies day one torrented because an HD copy, a 4K HD copy, was available online the same day it hit theaters. Now, some movies like Godzilla still did very well. I think Godzilla was the perfect storm. People had been in their house for so long. They were itching to get out. The vaccines had just hit. Now there were vaccines. There was a big special effects movie, and people just had that urge to get out. But as the months went on, we started having new waves of the virus, the variants, the Delta variant, the Omicron variant. Some areas brought back mask mandates. Some areas started shutting down theaters again. And suddenly, Mortal Kombat 2, or Mortal Kombat, whatever it is, Mortal Kombat, the movie, being on HBO Max or in theaters, people were like, well, I'm staying home. This James Gunn's The Suicide Squad in theaters or at home. I'm staying home. You had a lot of this the whole year. And then you had Universal, and Universal is the biggest offender in this. They made a deal with the movie theaters where they said, we're going to send you our movies. Now, up till now, there was a 90-day window. Movies, the deal theaters and studios had was, for a movie to play in a major movie, a major chain like AMC, Regal, any of the big theater chains, they had to sign a deal that said it would not come home to DVD, Blu-ray, streaming, any kind of home service for 90 days. 90 days, that's 3 months. Now, that deal was in effect for many, many, many years. And Universal Studios used the pandemic as an excuse to renegotiate their contract with AMC, the largest theater chain in the world, that allowed them to put their movies on PVOD after 30 days, 1 month. This was a death blow to the movie theaters. And Universal is to this day continuing to fire off this death blow, because they are putting movies out on PVOD to this day, only 1 month after they open in theaters. Now, certain studios have learned their lesson. Disney is the perfect example. If you'll notice, Thunderbolts came out in May. You still can't find Thunderbolts on Disney Plus. It did recently hit PVOD, but that was after several months. Disney has embraced longer windows. They have embraced longer windows, and God bless them for that. Because the 90-day window should have come back immediately. As soon as COVID was over, that 90-day window should have come back immediately. But the problem is, a bad actor like Universal Studios is hurting the entire industry, including Disney, who's doing the right thing. Disney is respecting long windows, but Universal isn't. And Lionsgate isn't. And the problem is that muddies the messaging. It used to be that we understood if a movie opened in a theater, we could go see it in the theater, or we could wait about 3 months, and in about 3 months, it would be available at home. We all understood that. Now, somebody like me who follows the movies pretty closely understands that if Universal puts a movie out, they may decide, if they're not happy with the business it's doing, they may decide to put it on PVOD in 1 month. Warner Brothers might decide to do that. Lionsgate may decide. Disney's not going to do that. If you want to see a Disney movie, you better get to the theater because there's going to be a long wait. I understand that. People who follow the box office understand that. But the average Joe on the street, the average, person you just stop on the street who does not follow these trends closely, they don't know what studio's doing what. All they know is that, The Fall Guy, wasn't that just in theaters? That just opened like 2 weeks ago, right? It's available for rent on Amazon already. And that creates an impression that if a movie opens, there's no sense of urgency to get out to a theater because it's just going to be streaming in about a month. Doesn't matter if that's true or not, because most people don't pay attention to what studios are doing what. Furiosa. Last year, Furiosa Mad Max story came out. A lot of people expected that to do really well. It tanked at the box office. Tanked. Good reviews, good word of mouth. Why did it do so bad? I blame The Fall Guy. Why am I blaming The Fall Guy for Furiosa's failure? Think about it. The Fall Guy had just opened in theaters. It had just opened. I think it was only 2 weeks later. I think The Fall Guy was in theaters for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. And after 2 weeks in theaters, it did not do well. And they put it up on PVOD on Amazon after 2 weeks. Now imagine you are the average person who does not follow the movies too closely, and you click on your Amazon Prime, and you get a banner telling you you can rent The Fall Guy now. And you think to yourself, didn't that just open 2 weeks ago? Then your friend says, hey, Furiosa's opening. You want to go see Furiosa? Why? It's just going to be on TV in 2 weeks. That's the signal they send. That's the signal they send. Every time one of these movies comes to PVOD too soon, they're not hurting the movie that already opened, because The Fall Guy had a bad opening. We talked yesterday about movies that are front-loaded. They do really well. Then word of mouth gets out. Nobody goes back week 2. Then you have the movies that nobody went week 1. Nobody showed up week 1. Well, that was The Fall Guy. Nobody went to see The Fall Guy. Great movie, by the way. Nobody went to see it. So it wasn't front-loaded. It just nobody went to see it. But the damage was done for The Fall Guy. The damage was done for The Fall Guy. It already didn't make its money. So The Fall Guy coming to streaming too soon doesn't hurt The Fall Guy. Doesn't hurt The Fall Guy. In fact, it kind of helps The Fall Guy, because apparently more people rent it. That's a source of more revenue. But that source of revenue is going to be there later. You don't need to rush that source of revenue. You're going to have the PVOD revenue whether you wait for it or not. It's always going to be there. What you're doing is putting a bullet in the next thing, because you're creating a perception to the public. There is no need to wait. These things are coming right to streaming. You don't need to get up. You don't need to go out. So you're getting a short-term gain in that, yes, people are now renting the movie at home from the comfort of their home, and you're making that movie. Studio's making that money. But they've handicapped the next film coming out, whether it's their film or not. Because Furiosa wasn't. Universal put out The Fall Guy. Furiosa was a Warner Brothers movie. But I believe that The Fall Guy coming out on PVOD the week Furiosa opened was the bullet in the head that killed Furiosa. Because if the general public sees that a movie that just opened 2 weeks ago just came out on PVOD, why are they going to have any sense of urgency to go see the next film? And people say to me, oh, but there's a lot of profit in PVOD, because a movie like The Fall Guy didn't make its money. By bringing it to PVOD, they do make that rental money, because people who weren't willing to go out to see it, they will rent it, and they make the money. Okay, I get that. I get that. But no movie on PVOD, no movie on streaming has ever grossed $1 billion. Never has a movie on PVOD or streaming grossed $1 billion. Big hits at the box office, like an Avengers Endgame or Deadpool and Wolverine or the new Lilo and Stitch, that's $1 billion film. They made $1 billion at the box office. And guess what? Then they came to PVOD, and they made the PVOD money there. So you're going to get that PVOD money. You're still going to get that money. Just push it off. Wait a few months. Because what you're doing is hurting the box office. And you don't want to hurt the box office. Because if you kill the theaters, if the theaters go under, then you're never going to make $1 billion movie ever again. It is in the studio's best interest to nurture the theaters, because when they do make the bigger money, they make it on the backs of the theaters. They're not creating a new revenue stream. They're catering to a revenue stream that already exists and starving out another revenue stream. Because right now they have the movie, they go to the theaters, that's a revenue stream. They come to PVOD, that's a revenue stream. They sell the physical media, that's a revenue stream. So they're not adding one, they're just subtracting one. If you kill the theaters, you just lose that revenue stream, and you're not adding one, because the PVOD is already there. It's already built in. Just wait for it. And how do I bring this back to superhero cinema? Captain America: Brave New World is a film that failed in theaters, and it has been streaming like crazy on Disney+. That tells you the interest was there. That tells you the people wanted to see the film. Same thing happened with The Marvels a couple of years ago. The Marvels was the lowest grossing MCU movie of all time, shot right to number 1 when it hit PVOD and streaming. Same thing happened with Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. It did dismal in theaters, was number 1 for weeks when it hit PVOD. And that tells you the interest was there. The people did want to see these things. And as soon as they had the opportunity to watch it at home, they jumped on it. So what kept them from getting up and going to the theater? It was the lack of a sense of urgency. There's no need to go to the theater. This is just going to be home in about a month. And that is what's killing the theaters. And they need to bring back the 90-day theatrical window to recreate that sense of urgency that tells the people, you need to get up off your ass and go to a theater, or you are going to wait 3 months to see this film. All right, everyone. Keep wearing those pajamas.
Keep wearing those pajamas
with the plastic feet.
Keep wearing those pajamas.
Tell everyone you need.
Keep wearing those pajamas
with the back door flap.
Keep wearing those pajamas.
Don't open it, it's a trap.
Oh no,
it's a trap. Some people call them PJs, some people call them jammies. They can come embroidered with big money and no whammies. They can have 100 tiny commander pajamas, but no matter how they look, just keep on wearing those pajamas.
Keep on wearing those pajamas. Keep wearing those pajamas.
I know we're having fun.
Keep wearing those pajamas.
And now the song is done.